Hey, welcome to Discard. Today I've got some displays for the 3DS, the DS, the Switch, and the Game Boy. And these displays may be used in a lot of game stores, but can also make your collection absolutely awesome. Some unique opportunities with these. Let's take a look. So recently I got some displays from a company called TrophyBit on Etsy, and this company's made a bunch of displays that I personally use in my own game collection constantly. In fact, a lot of the shots in this, I will be taking cards out of their displays and putting them into these new ones. These new ones are very special in the way that they actually display the games. And what makes these so interesting is that these are all on a 45-degree angle. But if you are interested in those other stands that I've talked about in the past, you can check out my DS, 3DS display videos, as well as Game Boy and Nintendo Switch display videos. I talked in length about them before. Love them. I think they're fantastic, so go check those out. But for today, what we have is this really cool 45-degree angle display stand. Now, the first thing to note is that these are a 3D printed item that is found on Etsy. These guys are making them probably in their home and sending them out to people. These stands are made out of 3D printed PLA plastic. And that means when you have 3D printing, you can have some variation. There's little layer lines on there as well, almost completely indicative of 3D printing. You'll see those lines on there every single time. So if you're not into that, these may not be for you, but I found that those kind of blend into the background and the variation is kind of minimal. So we'll get into some of the uses for these in the latter half of the video, but for now I want to talk about each individual stand and what makes them awesome. So the first three stands that I'm going to talk about are all the same size. They're all around 12 inches wide, 4 inches deep, and 1 3/4 inches high, which is really cool because you can display these next to each other and have a really nice effect of having the same kind of stand for all of your loose cartridges. But the first stand is for the 3DS and the DS cartridges. And again, this is for loose cartridges altogether. If you have a bunch of loose carts, this is a great way to display them. You can display your loose carts out of the original boxes and minimize the amount of times that you're opening those boxes or putting them in and out of your shelf, which can help minimize that effect of blurring on some of these plastic cases. That blurring effect can come from just inserting and taking out of the case itself. Even if it's just rubbing up against another case, that blurring effect happens over time. So in a lot of cases, especially with cardboard, I do recommend taking out the cartridge itself and finding another display for it or storing it. But the 3DS DS display that I have holds 32 games, and that is a chunk of video games that you're able to display on this thing. I think that is awesome. The going price for that is $24.99. Now there is another version of this that is a smaller version that may fit into other spaces. I don't have a picture of that one, nor do I have a copy of it, but that one in particular holds 14 games and runs for $11.95. Overall, the quality of the 3DS DS version is really good. I think the thickness on all the walls is the right thickness. Doesn't feel like I could break this anytime soon. Like the ones that I've seen in the past, they do a really good job of quality control and making sure that what they're putting out there is of quality and will hold up to the game room environment. And of course, the number one thing about any of these stands is that you're going to be able to see the artwork on these little cartridges, know which game you're going for, grabbing it and going. You can take those games, you can make them alphabetical, you can do whatever you want in here, but being able to see the front face of all these video games is a big deal when it comes to loose cartridges. But overall, I think the 3DS DS version is really good. It shows off the artwork, it holds up. I don't see any problems with this thing whatsoever. It's going to be in a minimal space because of the size and the angle. I think you could put this pretty much anywhere in anyone's collection, so that's a fantastic bonus. Moving on to the Nintendo Switch angle display, this thing is amazing. Most of their Nintendo Switch items from TrophyBit are really, really good and really high quality. All the walls on this thing are super thick, so this thing's not gonna break. Just like the 3DS and DS case, this thing holds up to that kind of quality. But of course, this thing is maximized. Being able to hold 44 different games is a tremendous amount of Nintendo Switch games. If you are a Nintendo Switch collector that likes to play your video games quite a bit, this may be an optimal opportunity for that situation. And as far as I know, the Nintendo Switch display only comes in one size and is priced at $24.99. And again, I do think that's the right price for something like this, something that's covering a large group of your collection, something that fits into a small area, something that displays all of that artwork. I think it really nails that, and for $24.99, I think that's a steal of a deal when it comes to displaying your stuff. And then of course one of my favorite systems, the Nintendo Game Boy. This particular stand works fantastic for those Game Boy games. It takes them, puts them in there, you get that nice 45-degree angle that you can do so many different things with. This Game Boy stand holds 20 different Game Boy cartridges and is priced at $24.99. This Game Boy angled display stand is at $24.99. Only comes in the one size for now. I do think that they are working on a smaller version of this for people who want to put it into maybe a thinner shelf or a thinner place. I think that's great. I hope they keep working on finding new sizes of these so that they can fit into more people's collections out there. Now, the one thing about the Game Boy stand that worries me a little bit is that it is completely different than the other stands in the thickness of the wall at the front. So when you put your Game Boy game into the actual stand itself, there's a wall that's kind of between it and the backing. And that front wall there is very, very thin. I think it's only maybe 1 or 2 layers of PLA plastic. And that may seem enough to some people. I do think that if you were to bang something into this by accident or bump it, that's gonna crack and it's gonna cause those layers to break. And that is kind of an issue. But as long as you're taking good care of this and you're just sliding your cards in and out the way it's supposed to be, I don't see that it would break. I just think it's something to keep in mind that those walls are a little bit thin. I do wish that they would thicken them up like the rest of their stands. But of course the Game Boy stand works for all of your standard Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, as well as your Game Boy Advance games. I would even go to say that the Game Boy Advance games look even slicker in these more than the other games themselves. And then one of the most unusual stands that I have today isn't a stand at all, and that's subscribing to the channel. Every subscription really helps the channel, so hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys very much. Now to the last angled display unit from Trophy Bit. This is another Game Boy display, but this one's a little bit different. It's got kind of a irregular shape and it is a little bit odd, and that's because this one's actually designed for drawer use. So if you had a drawer in your house that you were shoving your games into before, you could really utilize that space by taking this, putting it into the drawer, and having all your Game Boy games available. This one does share the same thin wall issues of the other stand. I definitely hope that they kind of thicken that up just to make it feel a little bit more sturdy overall. But it is kind of interesting to me to see this kind of long rectangular design for these Game Boy cartridges. I don't think I've ever seen anything specifically designed for Game Boy cartridges that fits inside of a drawer. This is a great way to do that if you don't have the space on a countertop, on a shelf in your game room, and you are storing them in a drawer. Might as well have it look really cool when you're opening up that drawer. For this one as well, the quality is on point other than the kind of thin layers on top that I'm a little worried about. The plastic in the back is thick walled and looks good to go. This kind of drawer organizer holds 6 different games and comes in at the price of $9.95, which I think is a good deal for this. Though this one is holding a lot less games compared to the other ones, I think that kind of balances out with that price. So that's all the display stands, their quality, how many can fit into each stand, and the price. But how can you use these in a game collection? One of the things that I see time and time again in people's game collections is the kind of emulation of these store environments, these retro game stores or these normal modern game stores that you walk into and you see the shelves of video games and you're just in awe at all these choices that are available to you. And I see a lot of people try to replicate that in their own personal game room. And these stands kind of create that unique opportunity to do that, especially with this kind of top view of all of these games. But there's a few instances that work perfect for this kind of display stand and may help you utilize your space a little bit better. So the first use case that I thought about was I recently messed with my Kallax shelf and added in some of these glass add-on shelves into the middle. And I put them at kind of a 1/3 height and have this minimal space underneath of them that I've been trying to figure out what I can display in there. I like the idea of having this kind of glass surface to look through while displaying things on top of it, but I wasn't ever sure of what to put in there until I saw these display units. Because the angle of these is at that 45-degree angle, when you're looking down on your shelf, you'll be able to see all of the artwork on whatever games you're deciding to put into these shelves perfectly, and that makes for a really cool opportunity, especially in this scenario. If you have any shelves in your game room that have glass shelves, if you have any Kallax units that you're adding glass shelves to, or if you just like the idea of having a clear shelf and looking down on your video games, this is a perfect solution for you. I really like how it looks inside of my Kallax unit. It looks beautiful and gives me that effect that I'm in a game store, which is of course, incredibly nostalgic. And also keep in mind these are at a 45-degree angle as far as all these stands goes, and can still be viewable at a 90-degree angle. So if you are sitting on your couch and you're looking over at your shelf, you'll still be able to see your video games. You're just not going to be seeing them at a 90-degree angle. You'll still see them on that 45, which kind of will obscure a little bit of the artwork and kind of smush it just as it goes. But it definitely makes me want to add some clear acrylic shelves or some sort of, system that I can look down into a shelf like I'm in a store and see all of those awesome video games in there as if I'm about to pick one to purchase. And another use for these is just anything that you happen to be looking at most of the time at a 45-degree angle. One easy way to find out what that is just walking around your game collection and looking at your shelves. If you find that something on your shelf you're mostly viewing from above, that may be the place where you can put a stand like this to see those video games. And I think a general shelf like a Billy bookcase or a normal bookcase from any of these big box stores is a perfect place for this, specifically on the lower shelves. If you happen to be walking by your bookcase, or if typically that bottom shelf is unused because you're just not displaying stuff down there, this is a perfect unit to be putting into those spaces so you can see those games. And I really think this is a cool idea to kind of solve that problem of having that extra space that's just not used because you just can't visually see it. This can actually add an extra layer to your shelves. So maybe you have displays in the back of your shelf that are perfectly viewable from a 90-degree angle, and then maybe you put these in at the front. These are really thin displays. They're only 1 3/4 inch high, so these are sitting pretty low. They're not going to obscure anything that's in the back of your shelf. So if you have displays in the back and you have these at the front, you can be covering every angle when it comes to displaying stuff on your shelf and completely utilize your space, which is really awesome. But outside of shelves, of course, you could put these on your TV stand, any place that you're going to be at that 45-degree angle looking down on something. If you have mini shelves in your game room, if you have some sort of low space that's next to your couch, that you could see it at that 45, this is a perfect solution for that. But overall, I think this thing pretty much fits most places. I think the only places I would not be putting this would be on higher shelves, because you wouldn't be seeing any of the artwork if you put this on your top shelf of your bookcase. It would just be completely obscured at that point. But if you're putting it on eye level or below, I think it's a perfect solution to kind of fit into the area and find a great place to put your loose cartridges. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are already thinking up really cool ways to use these in a game collection to display a bunch of your stuff, but that's what I have so far, other than using them inside of a drawer. These being 1 3/4 inches high makes it so they can fit into some of the deeper drawers that are out there. Definitely not like a super thin, architectural drawer or something like that, but your average drawer should be able to fit that size of the unit. So when it's all said and done, these trophy bit game room displays that kind of mock this store environment style are really good for displaying your games on this other level. And I think they're very interesting and open up a whole new realm of experimentation when it comes to displaying your game room. And it may be worth taking the dive on the $24.99 if you're willing to put some carts into some stuff and move it around your collection and find the perfect place for this display stand. So I look forward to messing with this and experimenting some more if I do find some other ideas. And my question to you guys is, do you guys have any other ideas that you have off the top of your head that a 45-degree stand would work perfectly in somebody's game room? If you have any ideas on that, please let me know in the comments below. I'm definitely looking for those ideas for future videos. But thank you for watching Discart. If you're looking for other game room display ideas or stands, you can always type in Discart and then the thing that you're looking to display into YouTube, and you're more than likely going to come up with a video showing you how to display that or presenting a bunch of ideas on how to do it. I also have a playlist available on Discart page, game collection display ideas, and you can go through that entire collection of all the ideas that I have available to date. But if you like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. But otherwise, have a great day. Collect what you love.
시간은 잠깐